So what if I told you that you're not a bad plant parent and perhaps just a few simple adjustments could actually take your plant game to the next level? Let's today tackle some common plant care problems and turn things around with some game-changing but very simple, honestly, tips that you might want to start today. Plant care can feel overwhelming, especially when you think you're doing everything right, but you're still facing problems. Whether it's plants not growing, struggling to thrive, or just not looking their best, well, stay tuned because there is actually one quite common mistake that most of us plant parents still make that might be affecting your plants more than you realize. So if you want fuller plants, you want to start propagating early in that plant's life. You don't need to wait until your plant is fully grown. Take a few cuttings early on and propagate them and then add them to the same pot. Honestly, I always put 3 or more cuttings into a pot when I propagate, and this helps me just make that plant look a lot fuller. I've actually had a few questions already in the YouTube comments for those of you who wonder. So I've always got full, luscious plants, and that's because there's always at least 2 or 3 different stems popping out of that plant. You'll be amazed at how much quicker you will see a fuller display with some early propagations. Plus, I personally like to feel that it's helping that little lonely plant just feel a little bit less lonely. Maybe that's just me. Anyway, I like plants all sitting together in one pot. Here's a hack that's perfect for climbing or vining plants like monsteras, philodendrons, and even try this with syngoniums. Use a moss pole of some kind of stake for vertical growth. Now, I'm sure many of you realize this, but the trick to it is you don't just stick them on a pole and tie it to the plant. You can, and in some cases that sometimes does work, but what you're actually looking for is you want your plant to grow into that pole for stability. Because when a plant climbs up a trellis or in the wild it climbs up a tree, it has aerial roots, and those aerial roots will stick to that stake or that tree, and that's what helps it climb. So that's what you want to get from that moss pole or that trellis or that stake or whatever you are using. The roots will latch onto the pole as the plant grows, and it helps the leaves become bigger and healthier, and quite amazing actually. The pole is only effective if that plant grows into the pole, so make sure you do give it a little bit of time to acclimate into the pole and start growing. And you'll know if it's working, honestly, because the leaves will start to grow bigger, and they'll start to grow bigger quite quickly, actually. It will surprise you once it starts happening. And you'll also probably see the aerial roots start to go crazy wild, and all these little aerial roots will start to come out, which will help that plant climb up. It's like the plant is a little bit on steroids. It's ridiculous, but so cool to see. Okay, let's talk about fertilizing. Now, a lot of plant parents skip this step a little, but fertilizing regularly and at the right strength can make a huge difference to your plant. So how do you know when to fertilize? Well, they say, and they all talk about the growing season. In general, yes, that's very true. In spring and summer, which is the growing season, you should fertilize your plants, but you should probably fertilize them more than you realize. I fertilize my plants at least every 1 to 2 weeks. I know people who have said every 4 months, every 5 months. I asked a friend recently when was the last time they had fertilized. They couldn't even remember. Fertilizing is a very important part for your plant growth, especially if you've got it in pots, because the nutrients sooner or later drain out of that pot when you're watering it. So fertilizing more often helps ensure your plants have the nutrients they need to grow stronger and healthier. But don't be afraid to fertilize, I guess I would say. If you follow the instructions on the back of the fertilizing packet and maybe even dull it down a bit to 50 to 75% of what the instructions say, that's what I always do, then I promise you, you will never over fertilize your plants, but under fertilizing them can just make them weak and sluggish and not grow for you. So make sure you're regularly fertilizing your plants every few weeks to help replenish those nutrients that are depleted in your potting mix over time. Also, yes, I spoke about the growing season, but you don't have to stop fertilizing in the so-called growing season, or non-growing seasons, I should say, especially if your plant is still actively growing. If you've got indoor houseplants and they've got a good lighting setup and good humidity, and you've created the right conditions, which is actually what I talk about a lot on this channel, your plant might not even go dormant, or it might grow a little bit slower, but it will still be growing. And in fact, it might just grow all the way through winter. So make sure you keep those nutrients coming because it needs nutrients to keep thriving. So what's the biggest plant care issue you've ever dealt with? Is it getting that full look for your pots? Is it struggling with yellow leaves maybe? Or is it dealing with an issue that seems to be affecting your plants no matter how hard you try? Honestly, drop a comment in the below and let's have a chat about it. I love a good chat. If you've seen a few of my videos, share your plant world with the community. I'd love to hear what's been a challenge for you, and maybe it might even feature in one of my videos in the future. One of the biggest mistakes I actually do see is not pruning. So don't be afraid to cut back those leggy stems or remove dead leaves Pruning actually encourages new growth and helps your plant stay healthy by removing anything that's disease prone or damaged parts. Plus, it'll actually just make your plant look a little bit fuller and a lot more vibrant. Trust me, I am cutting and snipping and even cutting off old aesthetic leaves like this one. I wonder if I can see that. This one here. There we go. I'm very much thinking of cutting that one off because it's just not aesthetically pleasing, even though it still has a lot of green and is helping the plant in a way, but I've got so many new leaves and new growths that I'm thinking of just getting rid of it. It'll just keep it a little bit more healthy without that damage. So it'll make your plant look more vibrant by cutting it up or getting rid of all of the dead stuff. And the neat trick about that is when you prune a stem particularly, you usually get 2 new growths coming out from that one stem leaf. So going back to the very first point about propagating your plant early on, you can do the same thing, propagate that and then add it back to the bottom of the pot. It'll make your plant look again more vibrant and more full, and it will encourage fuller growth and just keeps your plant looking beautiful and fresh. Honestly, I used to be terrified of pruning, and there are some plants out there that still need pruning. I mean, I have a lot of plants, but now I know that it's actually one of the best things that I can do for my plant. And if I procrastinate and don't prune it and then come back and prune it and then see all this new growth, I just feel so much better. So I'm getting so much better now at pruning for new growth and new health and just making my plants look pretty damn beautiful actually. Okay, tip 5 we're up to. Now let's talk about overwatering. So this one's quite a biggie. I used to be a total helicopter plant mom. I was constantly checking on my plants, giving them a little bit too much love, not really knowing what I'm doing and fussing about every single little thing. But here's the thing, overwatering isn't about how much water you give it in one go or how often you water it. It's actually about how your plant or the potting mix itself handles the environment that you've got it in. I've recently completed a whole video around this and I'd really encourage you to watch it if you haven't seen it yet. So you just want to make sure you're not overwatering by letting the soil dry out between waterings, and also make sure that you're getting oxygen to those roots. A great tip for this, and I've said it a few times now in videos, but I'm going to keep saying it probably for the rest of my life, is grab a moisture meter. Honestly, I don't care if you're brand new to plants or if you've been growing them for a while. Make sure you have this one simple little gadget in your toolbox. This has honestly been a game changer for me, and it just takes the guesswork out of understanding if your plant is ready to water, and it helps you really understand what your plant needs. That one little tool was built for one thing, and that's to help us with not overwatering. And then honestly, if none of that works, just go out and buy yourself 200 new plants, and then you won't have any time left in your life to water them all so frequently. So you're too busy to water them. Trust me, that one works too. Seriously though, if you're still struggling with overwatering, don't worry. I've actually created a nice handy little cheat sheet. It'll just help you make sure your plants are getting the right amount of water, not too much, not too little. You can grab it in the comments below, and it just gives you some tips and tricks on keeping your plants from being overwatered and how to manage that going forward. So download it, print it out, put it in your garage, put it in your New Year accessories, whatever you need. It's yours to keep and it's absolutely free, so go get it in the description. I also can't really complete this video without talking about yellowing leaves. Let me tell you though, figuring out why your plant's leaves are turning yellow is actually one of the hardest things to diagnose, because yellow leaves are actually the end result of your plant being in stress. It's basically the plant's way of saying, I'm not happy, Jan. And if you know what Not Happy Jan is, write in the comments below. You're definitely one of my people if you know where that's from. Anyway, the hard part with yellowing leaves is the plant stress making your plant not happy can come from so many different things. Overwatering, underwatering, too much light, too little light, lack of nutrients. It's literally the final sign from your plants that something is going wrong. Now, caveat to all of that is, if it's only happening to 1 or 2 older leaves and those older leaves are really small and right at the base of your plant, it could just be naturally getting rid of the old leaves that the plant doesn't really need. But if it's new growth or if there's yellow in the middle of the plant, you need to take the time to check your plant's environment. So check the light, check the watering routine, check whether it's been recently stressed. And most of the time, the solution to help you not get yellow leaves is just a slight, small little adjustment to its environment. It's all about creating that right environment where that plant is happy and healthy and growing quite easily. So for fuller plants, propagate early, give them vertical space to grow if they need it, fertilize regularly, don't skip the pruning, watch out for overwatering. But what's that one mistake? What's that one common mistake that most people do but don't even realize? That honestly is giving your plant the wrong light. It is so super easy to think we've got the right light for our plant, but the truth is not all light is created equal. Bright spots near windows might seem like a great place, and they are most of the time, but your plant might not be getting the right intensity or duration because, for example, an east-facing window and a west-facing window will give you very different intensity at different times of the day. So what really helps? Well, most plants do best with bright indirect light, but unless you understand how much light your plant is actually getting, you might be missing the mark. So while natural light is usually the best, supplementing with a grow light can work wonders. If you're not sure, you can buy a light meter and try it for the future. They are really, really good. But if you want to choose a grow light and you're actually not sure of the right grow light to choose for that space in your house, I'm going to leave you with this next video here. It's my Grow Lights 101 video where I just talk you through all of the details of how I actually look for and buy a grow light. It could be the game changer your plants need to absolutely thrive in your house. So I'm going to leave you with this video here. So go and watch that one next. Sending you off with a week full of thriving leaves, love, and joy-filled laughter. I will see you in this next video right here. I'll see you in the next video. See you later. Bye.